Okay. Welcome to the Southwest Zone Town Hall meeting. My name is Joe Linehan. I work with USA Water Polo Texas Development. And we're going to have these kind of once a week here on Tuesdays at 6:30. And I'm going to have a guest speaker, and then we're going to discuss a single water polo topic. Last week, it was just a general kind of a Southwest Zone calendar. Today, we're going to have Angela Uno, who's the Southwest Zone co-head referee with us. And then we're going to kind of discuss the new the new rules, like the new high school rules that are going to be happening now, and also kind of some of our referee successes this past spring, and also some of our referee needs kind of moving forward. Before we get started, does anybody have any questions? All right. Well, Angela, welcome. Angela Uno here is with us. She is, the Southwest Zone co-head referee. Angela kind of grew up in California, which I think she's in California right now, correct?
I am. I'm right near my hometown.
Yeah, and she went to West Valley Junior College, and then she went and played at Santa Barbara, and then she finished up schooling at SMU, and now teaches in North Texas in Dallas ISD. And she is she's the co-head referee along with John Reitmeyer in the Southwest Zone, and she is also the lead high school referee in North Texas. She has refereed numerous kind of the NJOs and women's nationals last summer. So Angela, welcome.
Thanks. Wow, that was a big welcome. Thank you for that.
There you go. All right, well, so we have the main reason we have you on here today is, there are the new USA Water Polo rules that kind of came out in 2019 and 2020. So do you want to talk a little bit about the new rules and kind of how they were introduced in phases in 2019 and then again at the beginning of 2020?
Sure. So the USA Water Polo came out with, well, not USA Water Polo, but FINA came out with new rules, which USA Water Polo adopted and kind of adapted for the youth level. They have been coming out in phases, which has been confusing for coaches and players. But we're finally at the point where we are completely 100% using the new rules for USA Water Polo. And then we have with the NFHS, they just announced that they're adopting the same rules that USA is using, as well as NCAA. There's a little bit of adjustment, and most of the adjustment pieces are more logistics, kind of like the 20-second shot clock, stuff like that, if you're a referee, it's not that it wouldn't be that much on your radar. It would be more on the club administrators or, pool people who set up clocks that would be more interested on when the 20-second shot clock comes in. Some major rules that people had to adjust to are maybe putting the ball in play, penalties within the 6-meter area, and yeah, those two are the ones that come to mind when it came to adjusting, and we can go over them a little bit.
So kind of what were the major rule changes in 2019? So again, they brought this up in phases. So just kind of highlight the major kind of 2 or 3 rules that came about in 2019.
So in 2019, location of that's not right. The putting the ball in play became an emphasis. It was always a rule that you had to put the ball in play with undue delay. But with looking into the future where you would be able to have a direct shot even after you faked or something like that, they started to emphasize that you had to have a clear motion of putting the ball in play. So for example, you throw the ball up in the air and catch it again, or putting the ball in the water and picking it back up to show everybody, hey, I've put the ball in play. So that was one of the major things in 2019. My brain is turning off. I can't remember what happened in 2019. We had the goalkeeper privileges moving forward.
Yep. And for those that don't know, the goalkeeper was not allowed to go past half tank. And now they are allowing the goalkeeper to go past half tank and be able to be a shooter, which allows some, after a timeout play, like a goalie can go up and there can be a 7-on-6, or just even just, in the course of a game and such. So go ahead.
The other one was that the ball didn't move from the where a foul occurred. That was in 2019. So just like in high school, if a foul occurs behind where the ball is or in front of where the ball is, as long as it's not within the 2-meter area, you didn't move it. And so that was a nice change to kind of be similar, the same as high school. And now that we're at the point where we're pretty much exactly at the same as high school, it's going to be even better.
And that was a rule that kind of started off in college, correct?
Yes.
And then the high school kind of adopted that, and I believe that was a great rule because it made for a faster game, a quicker game. Like the referee kind of doesn't need to do the point, like just kind of point back the ball, go back kind of to the goalie. The ball just has to go, just kind of wherever it's at and go. As a referee perspective, so have you found that that's a good a good rule that came about?
One of the major things is often referees will hold back on making a call because they're afraid to have to pull the ball back. So the ball might be in a counterattack, something awesome is happening way up in front, and then there's some, inevitably some ticky-tack foul in the back where they want to kick off each other because they're mad. And you can't, a lot of times we had to resort to like, hey, the finger wag and look in front of you, your teammate's about to score, so you don't want to be doing anything, which doesn't send a good message of, that we're controlling the game. But now that we don't have to worry about pulling that ball all the way back, we can say, you know what, you get out of here and let's let them score. And so it's always, now with that new rule, it helps to control the game a lot better.
Good. And plus that just that controls the game from an aggressive standpoint. It also makes for a little bit more of a free flowing game and such, correct?
Absolutely. Yeah.
But then we had a bunch of kind of new rules that kind of came about in 2020.
Yes. So that was the big shift. This is when we get all the interpretations and all the different reactions and what should be happening. And so I think the biggest one, or the two biggest ones in my opinion, are the direct shot outside of 6 meters. That it no longer has to be just a direct shot. You could fake and shoot.
After putting the ball in play.
After you put the ball in play. And then also attacking a player behind 6 meters is going to result in a penalty. And there's different interpretations on what will lead to that penalty. But basically, it used to be that if you had the ball in your hand, you wouldn't receive a penalty. When you had the ball in your hand, you were telling the referee, I don't need it, I'm going to finish it, let me take this shot, and don't call the penalty. Now, and often somebody would get like whacked in the head, and then you see the referee signaling ball in hand. But now that's not an excuse for us. We can't use that as a reason why we didn't call something. And so even if they have the ball in hand, it's a clear penalty. We can call the penalty throw. The unfortunate thing is it's not like in basketball where even if they score, within that play, we still have to take the ball out and say, okay, no, you're going to take your penalty shot, and hopefully they score that penalty shot.
So what was the main reason for that change, do you think?
A lot of these rules are just trying to promote safety. It keeps us from we can't use ball in hand or play on as a reason to not call something. We're just trying to clean it up. If you look at any other sport, all of the things that get called are clear. And often in water polo, as a spectator, you see somebody climbing on someone's back while they're trying to shoot. You would say, obviously, that's a penalty. That's a penalty in basketball. It's going to be a penalty in many other sports. And yet in water polo, you look at the referee and they're doing this, and it's so frustrating. And I can't imagine how frustrating it is as a parent to see your kid getting just dunked in front of the goal while they have the ball in hand, and they get nothing. And so now we can say, no, we want to protect them. We especially want to protect their head and neck while they're doing that. And in that vulnerable position right in front of the goal, the head and the neck usually are targets, because that's, you're just grabbing for whatever you can right there as a defender. So a lot of this is safety promotion.
Oh, one thing before we go on, everybody that's on here, you are more than welcome to ask questions as we go. Please just unmute yourself, ask the question, or use the chat feature to ask the question. Because guys, I know there are some questions about the rules as we go forward. We're going over a general talk about the rules right now. So again, if you have any questions, please go ahead and ask. Just kind of unmute yourself, ask your question, and then mute yourself, and then we'll do our best to answer. Right. So now, kind of going back to the 2020 rules, I know one thing, and I know this was a bit of an interpretation from the 2019, but I did see it a lot in kind of January and in February, kind of before the high school season got started, as far as the actual putting the ball in play. This was more of an emphasis. It was the ball had to leave the hand and come back in, and then that was putting the ball in play. Can you go over that kind of a little bit, kind of the expectation from the referee perspective?
Yeah, I think it gets really overcomplicated by a lot of referees and how they interpret it. We've been giving the instruction that there needs to be separation from ball, water, and hand in whatever order would make sense. And so often, you get fouled, it's on the water, you pick it up, you throw it in the air, now you're live. You have, let's say you get a foul, you can put it in the water, and then when you pick it back up, that's when it's going to be live. And so there's a couple times where I see like spinning, or even just placing it and keeping your hand on it wouldn't let you get live. And so often a player will have the ball here and then they move it here and they still keep their hand on it. It's not until they let go and then pick it back up that would be live. And so if you just think separation from ball, hand, and water, it'll help out quite a bit.
And it has to be something that the referee sees, correct?
Yes.
It can't be quick. It can't be just an inch off your hand. It's got to be, you have to make sure the referee kind of understands. Right?
The philosophy behind it is that it needs to be obvious enough that the defender would know that they are able to now defend again. If you're trying to be sneaky and the defender, it's not clear to the people around, not that the defender isn't paying attention, but if the defender is paying attention, they should be able to say, yeah, that is clearly in play. All the sneaky kind of moves of just pushing it or moving it away, if it's not clear to the referee, you can get burned. Especially some referees are going to be more strict, and it's subjective, right, in terms of what they believe is putting the ball in play. And so I don't think the tactic of trying to be sneaky with putting the ball in play is going to be a good one, because it's probably going to work against the offense.
And I kind of feel that this is actually taking some of the subjectivity out of it. It's making it more black and white.
Right.
I mean, and that's, I think, the less that the referees have to think sometimes, the better, correct? I mean, and
absolutely.
So, I mean, we have a large gray kind of area in our rules and our sport. So the more black and white there is, the better for everybody. Now, one thing that is very gray is also swimming, like the ball is on the water. And then this is something that a lot of coaches, I know I've had some discussions kind of with you about this. So can you just kind of describe the ball? It's a free pass. The ball's on the water. So what does the player have to do there to not get a turnover?
Right. So if there is a turnover, and often this can be really frustrating for players, because often this is the mistake I think the referees are making, is that they'll call the turnover as they're already swimming. So they've put them in a really awkward spot for them to have to do anything with it. But if you are a player, or if you're a coach and you're trying to kind of deal with how to deal with that rule, is as soon as they hear a whistle and it's their ball and they're swimming with it, they should pick the ball up and just throw it in front of them. And that'll be good enough to say that the ball is in play. Most referees that I know, we don't like penalizing that counterattack, because it's such a big transition to say, oh, sorry, you just swam into the ball. So now that you've earned your counterattack, we're going to take that counterattack back away. And so so I usually try to give them 2 strokes and say, all right, if you haven't picked up the ball at that point, then we're going to turn it over. I know some other referees, the second they start swimming into that ball, they'll turn it over. And as we get closer to Junior Olympics, I think that we're going to start moving towards getting stricter, because we've gotten used to playing with those rules. But just in general, if you are swimming with the ball and you hear a whistle, I would pick it up and move it in front of you again, just to be safe. That kind of ball in hand move, as long as you let go, pick it back up, it'll be a good.
I mean, and that's something then that's very similar to the kind of show the referee. You got to make sure the referee sees it, and it has to be it has to be either you pick the ball up and you pass it, or you pick the ball up and you let go of it, and then you can put your back, like your hand back on it, or continue to swim. Because if you just pick the ball up and you look around for a sec, that's going to be a turnover. Yeah, correct.
Yeah. And so for speaking to my referees, this is what is really important in terms of not over whistling. If somebody's gotten the steal, let's say they push usually it's on a ball under. If you don't need to call that ball under and they can just keep swimming with it, let them swim with it, because this whole ball in, the putting the ball in play thing will mess them up. So they push the ball under and they take off swimming with it, because that's what they've been taught to do, is that they're counterattacking well. But if you call that ball under, now they have to stop, put the ball in play, keep swimming, and then try to make something happen. If you just let that ball under happen and they take off and go, they're going to go counterattack and score that goal. So just be careful about those quick turnover calls. Sometimes we do it just because we think it's messy and we want to clean it up, but they can get out of it and swim it out pretty well. If you need to save them, save them. But if you don't need to, let them steal it and take off. There's no need to whistle on that transition. It usually confuses things.
All right. And like another major rule that kind of came about here at the beginning of 2020 was the 5 meter line is only used for penalties now. That's it.
Yes. For the shot.
Yeah, the penalty shot. So the 6 meter line now, it's making that kind of that penalty area a little bit bigger. It's also that's where your direct shot's going to happen outside of 6 meters. So that still is a rule. Foul, come up and shoot directly off of a foul. But now you can also foul, come up and put the ball in play, and then fake and shoot outside of 6.
Yes.
Okay. So how has that gone so far? Good, bad?
It's been interesting. I really enjoy trying to seeing the kids develop and trying to figure out what kind of new things they can do outside of 6 with the foul. I think defense has finally caught up. Defense has got the light bulb went off and said, "Oh, I can attack now. I can go play defense now." So now it's getting interesting. Before, when it first came out, it felt like defense just wouldn't attack at all. And the whole point is for them to put it in place so that defense can attack, but they would be putting it in play and then allowing that person to shoot. So we saw some really amazing outside shots to start. But now, they're getting contested, which is what we want. We want to see that gameplay, the little bit more competitiveness. With the 6 meter penalty rule, we have had the range of really too tight and, somebody just barely touches somebody and they score, but we've already called the penalty. We got to pull the ball out, and it's a whole big thing. We have, some referees holding back. Which is frustrating for coaches, because coaches can hear, once they're inside of 6 and they attack from behind, they get they hear the word automatic penalty. And that's not what we've been instructed to do. No matter what, as a referee, no matter what new rules come out, the holy rule of the rule book is the advantage rule, which means we cannot make a call. We cannot whistle anything that would hurt the offense. And so, we want to keep that in mind. So we had to find this fine balance between calling it real quick and saying, "Oh, you touched the player, and so that's a penalty," versus we want to allow gameplay. We want to allow them to show off and be able to be the superstars that they are. But if what they're doing, despite the ball in hand, is causing them to not be able to shoot, then we need to call that penalty. Often coaches mistake that, not coaches, but just in general, spectating. I'm calling out coaches. No, my bad. But the idea that just because your player missed doesn't necessarily mean it was should have been a penalty. you can allow for that advantage to happen, and then at the last second your player just had a weird ball fumble or anything. But either we have to allow the play to happen and let them be that superstar, and hopefully they score and do what we want them to do, or we call that penalty a little bit earlier. But we have to figure it out player by player.
Now, as far as the outside of six shot, now that creates a few more opportunities that may not have been in the rules before. For example, like after the other team scores, just kind of right there in the middle. It used to be they had to pass the ball and then shoot, and now a player can just kind of put the ball in play and then come up and shoot themselves. Correct?
Yeah, so that takes away the tactic of foul and drop for a little bit. I think a lot bit actually, and that was the point, right? Is that I don't think it would be fair to give somebody an ordinary and then it actually hurts their team, because usually everything freezes after you give an ordinary, because defense just locks up on all the other players, and then the drop is blocking the set. So then what is that player supposed to do with the ball? But now with this new rule where they can put it in play and now they're eligible to shoot, then the drop has to think, should I stay dropped or should I come back? And they don't have that much time to think about it, because they could shoot right then and there instead of having to wait for that pass, for that outlet pass to get there.
And then this, like the corner throw, like the 2-meter throw, that is also a shot now too. So if the goalie tips the ball out and then the offense keeps the ball and it's a corner throw, they can put the ball in play and go in and shoot themselves. Correct?
Yeah, let me pause for a second because I got just a standard question right here. What is an ordinary? So just so that I'm using the language of the rule book, which sometimes doesn't translate to like spectator language. So an ordinary is just a foul, just a one whistle, back off until they put it in, they get it live. And so, yeah, when you hear me say ordinary, I usually just mean just a regular foul, not like a big one, but just a little one. Back to the corner throw. Yeah, so the corner throw almost acts as a you treat it like you would treat something at a 6-meter, like an ordinary at a 6-meter or a foul at the 6-meter. And so if you're at the corner, you can either directly shoot it immediately. So, which is confusing because we don't whistle on a corner throw. We don't say, okay, time to start, beep. We usually just say, all right, it's time to go. And so as soon as they realize that we have said play on, they have to shoot it, or they can put it in play and do whatever they want. They can swim forward. As anytime somebody has put it in play, they are welcome to move forward and do what they usually do in water polo.
Okay. And now I know this came up at the Dare to Dream tournament, and the rule, the 12 and unders cannot do the direct shot outside of 6 or from the corners, but they can do put the ball in play and then shoot, correct?
Yes, that's right. We wanted to make sure that the whole point of not allowing 12 and unders to direct shoot is because there's always that one big giant 12 and under who can just dominate a game, which makes it frustrating for all the little ones who might not be that big, who can't play yet maybe. And so we don't want that person to hog up all the water polo love and space. And so in order to kind of limit that, we take away the direct shot. But now, that being said, that superstar can still shine because all they have to do is now put it in play, and then they can shoot it from half court and score or whatever they do. But it's to kind of slow them down just a little bit.
And if anybody's kind of curious on, so what are these new rules if they missed the beginning of this, over in the chat feature, Angela did post the rule book at usawaterpolo.org. So we're also going to talk about the high school rule changes here in a second, but those are the two websites that are posted there. So, I mean, obviously, so what is your overall impression between like the new rules and the old rules? So do you like the new rules? Do you not like the new rules? Or are you liking the direction we're going?
I think in general, we have gotten a lot. The philosophy has really just been focused on safety. I think we used to say that we were focused on safety, but the new rules are really forcing that making it a tangible thing, rather than saying like, we want you to call it right. Sometimes the call isn't right. We're just like, whoa, somebody got hit in the head, and we just, even if the ball's in hand or whatever, we just need to make that call. And the new rules really push for that we're gonna always call for safety rather than just making sure that you're following the rule book 100%. I think in general, anytime rules change, I remember in high school when rules changed on me, it's frustrating because we're all adjusting. But once they've adjusted, people forget that the old rules even existed. And it's just a story that we tell about the flags and hands with referees and all that stuff.
Yeah. I played with flags a long time ago. I still remember, the ball didn't have to go back to the exact same spot. So yes, I played with 3 minor fouls in center, and there's an exclusion. So I'm on the old side out there. So, but
sorry. I did ODP back in March, beginning of March, and the new rules. I'm a simple-minded guy, but it was more common sense, and they just flowed easier. If you get my meaning there, because I didn't have to think so much about, okay, where is everybody? What status are they in, and everything. It just kind of made things a lot smoother at that point in time. That's just my 2 cents on that.
And I agree. I think the rules it just makes for a quicker game. It makes for a safer game. It actually makes for a game that's a little bit more easily understood by the general public, like the parents up in the stands and such. But saying that, Angela, so do you see any specific challenges kind of with the new rules, any issues moving forward?
I think it's just finding that balance of there's a couple of ones that we're adjusting to the penalty rule. Initially, we went off the deep end on that, and just everything was a penalty, and so that now we're swinging towards kind of finding that balance. I think the biggest thing to adjust to is that as rules get that we have them for longer, coaches get more crafty and sneakier and think of loopholes that we didn't even think of, and so we can't prepare for it because we never know what a coach is going to come up with, and so we just kind of have to wait until those situations arise, and then once they happen, we need to be proactive of just applying that everywhere. I know Levon, who's the head referee for USA Water Polo, he's getting text messages and emails and constant communication and questions about these rules because somebody has come up with something, some absurd situation, and then it's not so absurd anymore because everybody's doing it because everybody thinks that's a great idea, and so that's going to be the toughest thing is the more we play with them, the more things that we have to kind of think about and start implementing.
That's progress, though. Yeah, there's progress. Now, now we've had these rules here in the Southwest Zone, and we've been all over the spectrum from Dare to Dream 12 and unders to the spin lob with the Masters. And then we had a few high school kids get to play at the ODP stuff. But how's it gone in kind of your view so far in our short little kind of trial with the new rules here in our zone?
Yeah, so I had the privilege of reffing all the new rules in 2019 at ODP because they decided to implement all the new rules at ODP, along with Women's Senior Nationals. They also did all the new rules, and it was really great seeing that and then transitioning to how it adjusts to the Southwest Zone, because I was curious about, you have these all-stars from every region coming into one team to not having all-stars. The kids are just learning and how they adjust, and actually it was a pretty smooth transition. Kids adapt really well to rules, coaches adapt really well to rules, and it's exciting. My favorite thing about this whole situation with the new rules is that I have more coaches talking to me and asking me questions, and kids asking me questions of what's allowed and what's not allowed. And it's just this
And they're talking to you. They're not yelling at you, right?
Right.
They're
Yeah. No,
talking
I love that we have this kind of understanding that we're all learning and all figuring out these situations. And so it's not to be super cheesy and, love and rainbows and unicorns, but that's what it feels like. It's just that we're all constantly on the same team now, that it's no longer referee against coach against player, but everybody's just trying to work together, that we're just like, hey, we just want to play the game and we just want to figure out what these new rules are. And it's been awesome.
And I do think a major thing, and that's the second kind of website that you posted today. Like another major thing was earlier in April, the National Federation of High Schools adopted the USA Water Polo rules for high school play starting in this upcoming fall school year. Is that correct?
Yes, so it's super exciting. I have been saying this since I was in high school because I was frustrated. Even in middle school, I was like, why don't they just adopt all the same rules? It would make everything easier. And now we're at that point. I wanted to stop for 1 second. I got a private question. And actually, you're better suited to answer this question. What states do the Southwest Zone cover?
Southwest Zone covers Texas, Louisiana, Arkansas, and Oklahoma. The majority of the people that play water polo, coach water polo, and referee water polo are in Texas. Now we are working toward trying to get a little bit more water polo out there in those other states, but it's a slow go for right now. But we do have a club in Louisiana, we do have a club in Oklahoma, and there's been talk about starting some club water polo up in Arkansas. But our focus mainly right now is still Texas, since it is so big. So there you go.
Awesome.
So now we were talking about the National Federation, and the high school rules are now going to match the USA Water Polo rules. There are a couple differences, though, correct?
Yeah, so one of the, kind of. One of the big differences is the 20-second shot clock, but we also don't implement it in the USA Water Polo world unless it's a major national event, except for JOs. Mostly in general, I think the 20-second shot clock is not popular because, there's all these software pieces of having to, do the USB thing for Colorado Springs and all of those things. So I think that USA made a great, USA and both NFHS made a great decision in just saying, you know what, let's hold off on making everyone turn into software engineers, and we'll just not do the 20-second shot.
And for those that are unaware, though, kind of what we are referencing is in the FINA rules and kind of what we use for like the Olympics and or hopefully the Olympics next year, and like the national championships here, not the National Junior Olympics, is after or after an exclusion, the clock will reset back to 20 seconds. After a shot, the clock will reset back to 20 seconds. That is not going to be used for the majority of youth water polo in the United States. At the USA Water Polo level, that's also not going to be used for high school. So it'll just automatically get reset back to 30 seconds like it has normally been doing the last forever. So now there is a flying sub rule in USA Water Polo where the subs can kind of like the subbing box can extend all the way up to half tank. High school is not doing that, correct?
Yeah, so high school's not doing it. Again, this is one that I feel like doesn't necessarily make a huge difference in Texas. We are blessed if we have enough water to have a full-size court anyways. And so to have an area, I mean, I think we've done flying subs in maybe 1 or 2 tournaments that I've seen, just because we don't have the space usually. So it's not a huge difference because even in USA Water Polo, you can't do flying subs unless you have the space to. And so if if you're at a pool that doesn't have the space to, then you don't allow the flying subs to happen because you don't want somebody, crawling on the wall trying to get in between the lane line of 1 inch that you have. And so in general, no flying subs for high school, and then kind of no flying subs for USA even.
And that's pretty much going to be the major difference. There might be some language differences, as instead of the white team starts to the left of the table, or the white team is home, or the white team is away, the number of timeouts. There might be some minor differences here, but the basic rules are going to match, which is great. And we're hoping that the rules are going to match with the NCAA. The NCAA are meeting this month. the various committees. So there is some hope that the NCAA is also going to adopt these rules, which this would be the first time ever in my time of playing water polo, and I started back in the early 80s, to where the NCAA and USA Water Polo and high school would all have the same rules. And that would be huge. Again, I think we talked about this earlier. It's always nice to have those newer and less experienced kind of referees not having to wonder kind of, all right, am I doing high school or am I doing USA Water Polo or what? Thoughts? Yeah, just kind of thoughts on if we have all three sets of rules the same, Angela.
Oh my gosh, it'd be beautiful. Because first of all, the clinics would make it easier. I don't have to keep explaining differences. I mean, most of the time, one of the problems that I see with referees who are switching back and forth between leagues, high school and USA, is that sometimes they're applying USA rules to high school or high school rules to USA. And so it can be frustrating, and we all get it at the beginning of the season and right at the end of the season, of the high school season. We get this weird brain switch. We're like, oh man, which set of rules am I using? I have to what I do every season, because I'm a big nerd with the rule book, is that I rewrite the rule book in my own words, and so that I can get them straight. And so that's the only way I can get my brain to shift. Yeah, I would love it. The other thing that I love about high school rules is that they give you situations within the rule book, like very specific situations that might arise. And so I'm hoping to see that they'll put in some situations for the new rules that we can apply. And hopefully that will help us with the USA rules and see those specific situations I was talking about earlier that just we have to wait until they come up to address them.
So for a lot of you that don't know out there, the rule book might only be 20 pages long, but the interpretation book might be 100 pages long. So, I mean, so the referees, they don't just get thrown on the pool deck and kind of have to just kind of do your best. They have to study, and they have to get to know the rules and such. So, but now there was a question here. So, streaming world, are there good websites or services to watch full games with the new rules?
Oh, you almost got me, but then the new rules. So the depends on the level that you want to watch. There's quite a few in terms of international play, and that's all on YouTube. You can find international play there, and that it's great to watch on a theoretical level, but I think getting used to it and then watching and then trying to apply that to youth water polo is going to be a little bit difficult, but still, obviously, the more water polo you watch, the better. But it's all on YouTube, and then there's also, I can't remember the website, but I know that one of our coaches up here is a big nerd on watching all those international games, so I'll have to ask him what that website is, and I can reach out to you specifically.
Coach, but what Angela is referring to is LEN. So LEN. So there's a lot of professional water polo that goes on in Eastern Europe and Europe in general. They have some very high quality and high quality content and videos with slow motions and different camera angles. Those are great games, both kind of men and women, and they've been using those rules for the last couple of years.
Yeah, and also we've been hosting watch parties in terms of we just watch it and we're just having a good time watching it. So if you're interested in watching more games like that, we're definitely hosting those.
And then also some high quality games also. I mean, it may not be the new rules, but it's always nice to see the Olympic Games in 2012 and 2016. Those are those are always some good kind of quality videos and such. So. But there'll be more and more of the new rule games that are coming out. So there's a ton of stuff on YouTube. You just have to just kind of go down the rabbit hole and hopefully come back out.
And a shameless plug for Texas Water Polo officials on Facebook. I've been trying to cut pieces of older games and then using those older games, looking at it from the lens of the new rules. So even if the new rules didn't exist at that moment, when the clip was filmed, we could see a penalty situation forming, and we would say, at what point would you call a penalty? with the new rules versus the old rules. And so I've been trying to post videos and cut videos, but my editing has been slowed down by traveling to California.
But where can we find that?
So that on Facebook, we are Texas Association of Water Polo Officials. And then in all social
That's a very long thing. Is it A?
Right. On all social media at Topo Refs.
TAWPO?
Yes. TAWPO Refs.
Nice. And then the Topo website is texaswaterpolo.org?
Yes.
Yeah, perfect. And then, of course, you can also go to usawaterpolo.org to find a lot of good stuff. We do have at txwaterpolo.com, there is like a referee section with some good kind of referee content for education. So there is a lot of stuff out there. You just have to go find it. And there's been a ton more of the professional development since we all went into quarantine here about 6-7 weeks ago. But so you are the co-head referee for the Southwest Zone. I mean, kind of what are the duties of a zone referee, and kind of what are your specific duties here in the zone?
Right. So when we were both looked at and we were asked about what we were going to do, and so for my role as a co-head zone referee, I'm focused on recruiting and retention as well as education and training. And so I've been more focused on recruiting at the beginning of the high school season, and now that we're in quarantine, I'm trying to push a little bit more training and online learning situations. We also have John Reitmeyer's position, and he is more on the administrative side. So often I get emails of like, oh, hey, can I work this tournament, or can I be assigned to this tournament? And that's actually going to be John's John's duty, is that he's more on the assigning piece. And so if you're looking to work a certain tournament, or if you're looking to get assigned in general that you want to start reffing, he's going to get you to get you assigned to a game, and I'm going to get you all the way up until the point where you step on deck.
With the education, and then there's also the social media presence. Don't you have a monthly newsletter as well?
Yeah, it's not monthly. It is whenever I can get it done, and then I send it out. Or if it mostly
so weekly then. So it's weekly.
It's mostly when I have content to put out. And so right now we're kind of at a standstill in terms of content. But in general, I try to put out stuff and give out information. I'm also trying to do a lot more coach outreach and player outreach. I just want to have more engagement in general, especially on social media, because it's so easy right now to do that. But I want to establish just better relationships so that we are all on that unicorn, lovely rainbow, same team that I was talking about earlier.
I mean, and the ref, I mean, again, we wear different hats. You know, you might wear your high school referee hat and your Southwest Zone USA Water Polo hat, but you know, we had a lot of, you kind of run the education piece a lot for the high school refs as well, and also kind of recruiting and kind of running the North Texas refs. We had a ton of new referees this past high school season. So kind of how'd that happen? Who made that happen? Please just give as many props to people out there as possible. So.
Oh my God. Yeah. So obviously it is not me. It is a whole team of people, all these people who are pushing younger. We had quite a few younger referees, and a lot of that actually, to be honest, is coaches pushing their alumni to ref. And so, the relationship between refs and coaches is invaluable. We have other refs recruiting other refs recruiting new people to ref. We have people with kids who who are refs and then trying to get their kids involved. So we've had quite a few actually in North Texas father-son duos or father-sons duos in terms of referees, and we love that. I've gotten a lot of messages from players. I've met a couple of people who are just just hanging around deck. Maybe they are still kind of staying at home right after they graduate from high school, and they reached out to referee. So we had quite a few of those. Huge shout out to Patrick Lou in the South, in South Texas.
The Rio Grande Valley.
RGV. Doesn't the South Texas mean something different? I'm very Californian right now at this point. And then also we had Justin Pudwell in Houston picking up for recruiting. In North Texas, I mean, it's it's a huge team effort. And I can shout out like pretty much everyone who's a referee in North Texas, because they're always just kind of recruiting. But
and
yeah.
Ken Tyler down in the
and Ken Tyler. Yeah.
And then of course Angela Uno in North Texas. So they did a lot of work. There was, I think it went from about 30, 40 refs maybe to about 70, 80 refs this past high school season.
Yeah, we jumped up. I think the official number was somewhere in the 90s. I just forgot. Nice. And some of them signed up and they were right there, and then the quarantine happened, so that was kind of a bummer. But yeah, no, we got those numbers up. Also, special shout out because I love the podcast, and the podcast got people talking too, and so.
Well, I don't know about that, but we will move on. So now, I mean, we did a great job of you guys did a great job of getting more referees. What is the need for the referees in fall of 2021, do you think, for high school?
I can't even put a number on it. Just everybody should just ref is my answer to that. We always need referees. I can get you started in whatever league that you want to. Now that they're all going to be the same rules, who cares? Ref everything. But if you want to referee and you're on this call, auno@usawaterpolo.org, and I'll get you started. We right now have online free clinics for USA Water Polo, so that's actually a really good start, and they're becoming available throughout this time. And so y'all, it usually is not free, and so I would take advantage of that. Even if you're just kind of considering reffing, if it's free, it's for me. Just do it.
What's that email address again?
auno@usawaterpolo.org.
Okay, and then we had another question that came up, and I think we answered this earlier, but is the Southwest Zone going to make some training videos for new refs? I think you said you are putting some stuff up on the top of Facebook.
Yeah, I have a lot of clips in general. I have not thought about putting one giant clip or video together. I mean, I certainly have the capability of doing that. But what I've been doing is on social media, I've just been releasing little bits and asking questions for each of those little bits. If one of my referees in the different areas want to put together something, I'd totally be down for that, and we can work together to make that happen.
And then I also believe that Levon is putting together some videos on YouTube that you can find on YouTube, and also at the usawaterpolo.com website, where he just goes over a specific set of the new quote unquote rules, et cetera, correct?
Yes.
Have you seen a lot of those so far? I haven't seen them yet. I just rely on my referee info from you, Angela. So there you go.
In terms of clips, so one of the big complaints that I've always had with USA Water Polo clinics is that they often use the same videos from year to year. And so I got to the point where before the clip even started, I could do it from the sound. I'm like, oh, that's a penalty. We already know this is the call. But the nice thing about Levon is that he's been working really hard to put clips that we haven't seen before, especially with the new rules. We have to start adjusting those clips. And so he's been collecting lots of different clips. And on top of that, there was a special request to get different levels of play. We often in those clinics get just, wonderful international play or women's teams, or even like USC, UCLA, Stanford play, which is awesome, but it's not what we see from a day to day. And it doesn't help us when we're dealing with 12 and unders who all subbed at the same time. And now we're wondering if we need to exclude every single player on the team. And so I actually gave some footage of like our high school levels and our middle school levels and say, hey, please use this, please get different levels. And so that's what he's working on too, is that we're just starting to get not just great international play as our frame of reference for reffing.
Yeah, so we had a question in the chat. It's how many referees will you need when high school starts in fall of 2021? That's UIL fall of 2021. So
again, I can't put a number on it. Every time I start to think about it, I'm just like, we need everyone.
Okay. I do believe that it took a village, and there was a lot of people that went out there and recruited a lot of referees this past fall to help with this spring because we lacked capable referees. Now, even the number of referees that we had this spring probably still wasn't enough for kind of what we have. And we have about 150 high schools playing. Our hope is in the fall of 2021 that we are going to have 225 different high schools playing, plus some other leagues as far as like TAPS and SPC for the private schools playing. So we might have up to 250 different schools playing. That's going to be a ton of games during the weekdays, during the weekends. So we might have about 90 to 95 refs now. We're probably going to need up to 200. So
Yeah.
That's just a guess. So rough estimate.
Yeah, and there's different components to it. So for example, in North Texas, I often as an assigner feel like, I'm pretty blessed with the number of referees that answer me who say, yes, I want to ref this weekend. And we'll have about at least 20 say yes to a weekend. The problem is adjusting for levels, right? So if we have brand new referees and all 20 of them are brand new referees, then we're going to have a problem because sometimes we can't put 2 brand new referees and have them hold down a game. And so we need everyone with experience, without experience will take you. And we just need a lot more bodies. On top of that, we have weekends, whether it's Easter weekend or something like that, where everybody will just disappear. And so I get 3 or 5 referees that I'm trying to work with. I'm like, I'm sorry, I have to give you 10 games in a row today, but this is what I have to work with. And so I often, when people want to take breaks or just don't feel like refereeing that weekend, I'm calling them up saying, please, my feet hurt and I can't do 10 games in a row again for the second weekend in a row. So constantly just looking for, at least for me, I would feel more comfortable if I had at least 30 to 40 reliable refs that were almost always going to say that they're going to ref that weekend.
And that's in North Texas.
In North Texas, yeah. And we're not, we're not as huge as Houston. And so that's going to be a different number for Houston.
Yeah. And we do have a plan out there. We are reaching out to a lot of the like the kids that are just graduating now, starting for next year, kind of getting them on board early. We do have parents that are going to be coming on the pool deck. We can't really, like, the beggars can't be choosers right now. But then we're also kind of reaching kind of across the aisle and trying to get some soccer referees, some basketball referees that currently ref high school there to come over and referee kind of water polo. I know Wes Mahan spoke a few minutes ago. Wes didn't play himself, but he's a father of a kid that did play, and he refereed high school football for years and years and years, and and he's done a great job. And we have kind of somebody just mentioned in the chat, lacrosse referees. Yes, please. So again, auno@usawaterpolo.org. Please email kind of Angela if you can. Another good thing that we've seen over the last couple of years is we've had a ton of our referees that are sticking around and being a little bit more dedicated. They're going out to JOs, they're going out to national events. And Angela here went to and refereed and was on deck at Women's Nationals, which is basically the Super Bowl of women's water polo. So how did that go last summer?
It was an honor. Honestly, I went in thinking, I'm like, all right, like I am just honored to even be invited to this tournament. The reason why I love reffing and why I think, especially like alumni should get interested in reffing is that it brings back that competitive nature that you kind of miss once you graduate from high school and college, that you just don't, it's hard to access as an adult in the adulting world to feel that same kind of competitive nature, because I'm not a very good Masters player, but
because she was the goalie and tries to play field now, so that's that's the bad part.
But yeah, no, it's just this idea that you can grow and that you could be the absolute, I mean, if y'all saw me when I first started reffing, I don't, you would kick me off deck. I mean, I swallowed my whistle. I never, I could barely hold my own. I was constantly nervous. I was shaking. I'd get real sick before games and stuff like that. And now I feel, there's games where I'm like, yeah, this is no problem. Like I could do this with my eyes closed. I don't. But in that progress of feeling like, it's almost like feeling like an athlete again, that you can just like grow and become this, it is just as competitive. It is just constantly evaluations and you can get to that point if you want to, if that's what you're striving for. And I feel as my job as the head co-head referee for Southwest Zone, is that I want to promote referees as much as possible and push them, and I'm trying to expand out. I know that in the past we've had times where we just weren't getting opportunities, especially in the Southwest Zone, we weren't getting looked at. And every time there's an opportunity, I try to push. I want to be the zone that pushes the most referees out to national events. And often we're now getting this reputation as like, oh, the Southwest Zone, like they're a really tight knit group, they're really friendly, they're awesome, and they are willing to ask questions and grow. It's a really great reputation to have. And so I mean, if you want to referee and you want to get to the point where you're going to Masters Nationals, Senior Nationals, all those things, we can get you there, but you just got to start getting obsessed with water polo and start refereeing, please, everyone.
So in the chat, we have a question. How old do you have to be to referee?
I started when I was 16. It's a little bit harder just because the number of games. I was blessed in California, obviously, because I could do, all 20 games of 12 and under is no problem. We often don't have opportunities like that. We kind of have it scattered a little bit. But, I'll take you. Even if you're young. I can't get you quite into high school season because then you would be reffing your own peers. But I will say this. There is a unique opportunity. I knew a girl in the Pacific Zone who started at 16. She's still super young. I think she's only 18 now. But she got an injury in her high school career. That was a high school career ending injury. And then reffing became the alternate avenue for her to stay with water polo. And so if something like that were to happen, I'm sure that we can, I don't know how it will work with UIL, but I'm sure that we can find it, certainly in the club area where we can get you reffing and at a high level.
Yeah, and these refs don't do it for free. They do get paid. So so if you are thinking about refereeing, you will get paid to referee and step on the pool deck. Any other questions for Angela out there? There were some great questions in the chat. Thank you so much, Angela, for joining us this week. Again, we're going to have these town hall meetings every Tuesday at 6:30 p.m. Next week, we are going to have a Southwest Zone ODP kind of a roundtable discussion with James Smith, who's the boys kind of head coach for ODP, and Chris Cohen, who's the girls kind of head coach for ODP. And then also we do have Texas Coach to Coaches every Thursday at 12:30 p.m. This week is Coach Daniel Cox from Southside Water Polo Club going over center defense. And both the videos of the town hall meetings and the Coach to Coaches are going to be posted online at txwaterpolo.com under the education link. Anybody have any questions? I do appreciate it, guys. Thank you so much for for joining us today. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, everyone.
Y'all take care. I will be hanging around for a few minutes if you have any questions.